Musicians Exchange Podcast, Season 3.
Musicians Exchange Podcast.
Musicians Exchange Podcast Season 3, period.
Musicians Exchange Podcast.
Welcome to the Musicians Exchange Podcast.
Musicians Exchange Podcast.
Musicians Exchange Podcast Season 3.
Musicians Exchange Podcast Season 3. Let's go.
All right, so welcome back to Season 3 of the Musicians Exchange Podcast. I got some of my good friends here with me. I'm glad to be back another season. I'll let them introduce themselves. I'm going to go first.
All right, cool. We're going to let the old head go. Yeah, I'm Marcus Anderson.
Indeed.
All right, Pete Singh.
Pete, so all right, Marcus, what do you do? Pete, what do you do?
I'm a musician, artist, now coffee shop owner, Tracks Coffee Bar in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, in the coffee business and just doing music.
Okay, that's dope.
Mainly coffee now since, no shows.
Yeah, it's very real.
Pandemic.
Hey, he created another lane for himself, and hey, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Pete?
So I'm a lawyer by day. Practice spans between corporate and entertainment, and musician on the side. So play a bit of everything with a bit of everybody.
That's what's up, man.
Ain't played with me yet, man.
Yeah, look.
Sunday, bro.
Yeah. Go to network, man.
Yeah.
Hit with you on Sunday, man.
I know, yeah. I guess that count.
Oh, that's what's up, for real.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, man. And I'm Erik Norwood. I'm the host of Musicians Exchange Podcast. It's a good situation. I'm glad to be back. Another season with some good friends. I play drums. I'm working on a little bit of keys. Shout out to Chucky, my wife, making that happen. But this episode, I wanted to talk legal. I wanted to talk technically. I wanted to talk, pandemic. I wanted to talk, future after the pandemic. So I mean, we'll jump right in, man. Let's start somewhere like around BMI ASCAP. For those who don't know, for musicians who are looking to mature in their craft and take it to another level.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll start off with the terms like people hear about a lot of times is BMI and ASCAP. Most musicians they hear about it, but they don't sign up for it. But basically, what BMI and ASCAP is like they're PROs, and a PRO is a performance royalty organization, and it's how musicians get paid. They collect the money for you, and then they get it to you from when you're being played on TV, radio, screenplays, anything like that. I think the only way you can get paid from any royalties like that is basically from a PRO like BMI ASCAP, and another one is called CSAC.
Okay. But
CSAC is you have to be invited into. It's like a special club, so but like most people, sign up for BMI and ASCAP, and I guess the difference in both of those, like BMI has more of a thing where it's free to sign up if you don't go into like the publishing side of it.
Right.
So you can sign up as a writer and a publisher for both. But the only thing about BMI is free. So most people always typically sign up for BMI. Yeah. But if you sign up as a publisher, they end up charging like a fee, anything from like $150 to like $250 as like an LLC, like a business.
Right. Wow.
The thing with BMI too is more so focused on like TV and like radio play, and they collect from that. But ASCAP is more producer and writer based. But there's a fee, I think, to sign up as a publisher and a writer with ASCAP. Right. And it's like small. It's like $50, to sign up for both of those. I think most people feel like, you collect more from ASCAP or BMI, but they pretty much do the same thing. It doesn't really matter who you sign up for because they're all going to collect your money. Yeah. It's just one kind of focuses more on the other. One collects more a certain period and the other collects more in a certain period. And then they tend to pay you like 4 quarters out of a year. The only thing I don't like, I'm signed up with BMI, but the thing that I like most about BMI is that they pay exactly like every 3 months.
Oh, that's what's up.
ASCAP like pays the writer first, and then like the publisher gets paid like 60 to 90 days after like the quarter ends. So it's like, it doesn't even really make sense to me. But I hear great things about ASCAP. You get more money,
right?
Getting paid, and it's just like royalties, ways to get paid from, royalties.
Yeah, so that's a great introduction to like PROs broadly. So like 10,000 foot view, all the way basic, performing rights organization. They represent the songwriters, the publishers. One less known thing is the session musicians and whoever contributes to the music. So like all the way back, song is really two things on the intellectual property front. So you have the composition, which is the music itself. And then you have the music recording, like the master. And both of those things are revenue generating. Both of those things can be published, distributed, and get you bread at the end of the day. So the PRO is that vehicle that kind of makes that possible. They go do the legwork.
And for those who don't know, not to cut you off, what is a PRO? What's the exact name for it?
Yeah, so it's a performing rights organization.
Okay.
They collect royalties for everybody. And the other acronyms, all the alphabet soup. Is going on.
Yeah.
So BMI stands for Broadcast Music Incorporated.
Gotcha.
These are all just private companies that kind of help us do what we do.
I think they're nonprofits too, right? Aren't they all based on like nonprofits?
Yeah, either benefit corporations or nonprofits.
Okay.
So,
Oh wow.
yeah, they really are out for us to do what we do. ASCAP stands for American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. And then the third that Marcus mentioned, CSAC, is Society of European Stage Authors and Composers, and that's kind of the invitation only element.
Yeah.
There's actually a fourth, less known, this up and coming, this GMR.
Okay.
Okay, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so Global Music Rights.
Okay.
Drake's catalog was like one of their biggest acquisitions, but they're kind of building as they go. And each of these, so BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, GMR, like Marcus said, they all do the same thing. They go out and collect bread, and then they distribute it between the songwriters, the publishers, and the musicians if they're astute enough to sign up and kind of get theirs. It all comes together. So yeah, like he said, each PRO, they are basically the same function. The way they go about it is different. So getting paid every 3 months versus that little staggered period is one thing. And like Marcus said, again, like the focus of each organization, one is more film and TV and radio. Others kind of have an angle toward digital nowadays as well. And a big thing for like artists themselves that are out of the mix of the songwriter loop, the publisher loop, the musician loop, if you're a title artist, feature artist, is sound exchange.
Oh yeah.
And that's one that gets left out of the conversation, but it kind of should be right in there.
It should be the first thing, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, the way Sound Exchange, was set up, I didn't even know anything about Sound Exchange until somebody told me about it. I'm like, "You ever heard about Sound Exchange?" And I'm like, no, I just got my BMI. Like, it takes care of that. And they're like, no,
Extra.
it's extra. It's like, because I think a lot of times, like too, like people, they think they sign up for like the digital companies like TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby. I mean, there are tons out there, but they think that's kind of tied into like BMI, ASCAP, and Sound Exchange, but it's not really. They collect a piece of it, but I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's based on like more mechanicals.
Right.
Yeah.
Mechanical royalties.
Yeah, mechanical royalties.
Wow.
And that's basically like physical sales, like CDs or like digital downloads. And I think now streaming has been added into that whole stockpile.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, to like bring it all the way back again, like you have to think of music the same way we as musicians kind of piece through the parts, instrument to instrument. It's also super layered from a rights standpoint.
Right.
So like I said, you have the master recording, you have the composition on the copyright end, but then like back end, it's digital downloads, it's compact disc sales, it's terrestrial radio, internet radio. All of these things have different revenue streams. And if you're not grabbing all of them, you really are just leaving it out there. There are ways, and this is to make it more of an encouraging conversation.
Right.
All is not lost if you haven't been kind of up on it yet. There are ways to kind of claw back some of that's held in reserve for musicians. I think it's the buckets usually, they empty about every 3 years or 6 years. Not exactly sure. But you can go ahead and like with a copyright office, check if there's anything under your name.
We don't want to jump ahead, Pete. You jumping ahead, man. Jumping ahead, man. But nah, I appreciate it, man. Y'all, you guys have explained it very clear. For the most part, a great deal of it in understanding the difference between them and finding out about more, GMR and CSAC. Because I didn't know about those, to be honest with you. I knew about BMI and ASCAP. I have yet to even jump in that lane. And like I said, man, I want to continue to push more professionalism, more maturity as a musician, as artists. Because in this area, we got a lot of artists. We have a lot of artists putting out great content. And I don't know how many of them, like you said, are leaving money on the table.
Right.
And stuff like that. Leaving, or even know the background of all of their situations. Or even, man, with some of that gig money, go hire you a lawyer for your group, for your band, for you as an artist. Just
I'll
so you
take
can stay, look, Marcus, you know what I mean? So you can stay up on it. So since you went to rights and to pretty much sign up for BMI, ASCAP, or, CSAC or GMR is encouraged.
And Sound Exchange.
And Sound Exchange.
Yeah,
I like the way you
other
put
thing
that.
before we jump is specifically like Christian artists, writers. One thing that is left entirely on the table, usually by the Black church, for lack of a better term.
Come on, speak up. Come on, help us.
So there is a dope resource called CCLI, and we are missing it on every end. So the churches themselves, there is a exception under copyright law for a church to perform music live without paying anybody, no licenses, no fees, what have you. That exception does not go as far as we treat it. So it's only for live performance in the venue. What it doesn't cover is presenting those lyrics, so displaying them on the projector like all of us do, streaming the service like all of us have to do now. So all of those things require a license to use that writer's material, that publisher, whoever distributed it. So CCLI is that database that you basically should, as a church, have a CCLI license, relatively inexpensive, I think, in the neighborhood of $30 a year.
That's nothing.
That's
right, next to nothing.
Get 10 years
but
out the way. Yeah.
So it's a lot of admin work that we don't do. So you're supposed to submit your set lists, say whose music you're doing.
Is that monthly, or is it how does
you can report it as often or often as you want
bro.
to. So it could be a month, could be a quarter.
Okay.
But when you do that, you're given CCLI the data to pay those people. So you have writers that want that stay home money, but us as a church are stealing from them inadvertently a little bit, and not reporting it the way we should, not paying for the license the way we should. Wow. So I'm actually, on my firm's website, we'll get to that later, but I'm doing a series of articles about how to do music ministry in a way that, of course, honors God, edifies people, but also honors the creators of the music. It's all God at the end of the day, but he channels through us.
That's good,
bit.
man.
Yeah.
That's
so CCLI. There's another competitor of sorts called CCS, but they all, again, it's just like a BMI, just like a ASCAP.
Oh, okay.
But specifically for the sacred arts, and we miss it entirely.
So question for the CCLI and the CCS. Is that only in the gospel and church realm, or does that go over into like clubs and stuff too? Because I know when I do performances, I don't pay a license for performing the songs that I do. The covers, I mean. So
that's a really interesting space in question. So CCLI, CCS is for churches, houses of worship. They define it broadly to not specifically exclude anybody. But you as a performer, whichever PRO you're with, you can also do that same exercise of submitting your set list.
Gotcha.
And then they use that and say, you perform so-and-so song. They don't collect anything from you except for that data. Really, the venues that you play at are supposed to have a BMI license, ASCAP license, CSAC license.
That was a thing back. I don't know how
young
you are or whatnot, but I don't know if you remember, Eric, that back maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, like they went around to a lot of the clubs and they started hitting them over the head.
Yeah.
what?
And they were saying, hey, you got to pay for these. Like it became a thing where you had to submit your set list, and it was just but it went away because
It's too much.
It's a lot.
It's overkill.
It's a self-policing thing.
Yeah.
Usually, like they do that little scare tactic from time to time. Just to shake the leaves.
Yeah.
See what happens.
That's
right.
crazy,
See, I feel like they're gonna
bro.
start doing it now with the pandemic and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's ripe, man. It's ripe.
To lock back down. Wow.
But even to go back to what Pete was saying earlier, one of the things I remember about Sound Exchange, most people may or may not know, it was a well-known musician I work with. He didn't know he got paid on other people's songs from Sound Exchange for just being a featured performer.
Right.
So I think I shot myself in the foot because he played on one of my songs. And then next thing I know, Sound Exchange was hitting me up. It's like, yeah, we're going to hold about $4 to $5 grand from you until we get him paid. And I was just like, oh, shoot. But it was right because, I've been in that same position before.
Right.
And also on the session musician side, from the total of like 100%, session musicians can get paid from Sound Exchange 5% or whatever comes in. So if you play on somebody's song or whatever, they don't pay you.
Yeah.
But it goes and you're listed in the credits. You can go in Sound Exchange, sign up, and request 5% of whatever that song is being played. If it's an album, it's any musician.
Wow.
So 45% is to the featured artist, and the other 50% is for the rights owner. So yeah. So if you own your rights, you can get up to 95% of Sound Exchange.
That's
the
good.
5% is reserved for your musicians.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And on the CCLI front, all of them really, you want to register your own material. Or if you're signed to a label, have them do that. Or if you're signed to a distributor, have them do that. But the theme so far is like, don't leave any money on the table.
Right.
We're in this for the love of the game and the art and the beauty. But the people that enjoy it are paying for it. They are consuming it. So you want to be sure to get yours at the end of the day.
That's real. So pretty much, those who have gospel singles coming out,
CCLI.
get them up.
I've had this conversation with so many artists.
That's crazy. So let's jump right into it. Copywriting and trademarking. What is the difference for the most part? Is it encouraged just like signing up for BMI ASCAP? What do y'all think?
I mean, you're more experienced, so I'll let you kind of more speak on it.
I will start that with a fun fact. Most people don't know, but you have a copyright in whatever you create as soon as you create it. So the statute's language is once it's fixed into a tangible medium. So if you're drawing something, you put it on paper, copyright exists. If you're recording something, it sticks, copyright exists. So not a sandcastle, not an ice sculpture, unless you preserve those things somehow. But you have copyright in whatever you create. Day one, hour one, second one. The process of registering a copyright is something you can do strategically, something you can do in bunches and in groups to save yourself the application fee. As long as they're unpublished, you can pretty much do your catalog one pop and call it a day. Where you get into complications and troubles is when you're not registering what you do release, and then you kind of have the stockpile on the other side of the public. So people have already heard it, they've already listened, they've already bit your material.
Right.
And then if you try to kind of go backwards, the real reason copyright registration comes into play is if you, as a plaintiff, are alleging copyright infringement over somebody else, saying they used your work in a way you didn't license them to or allow them to. The other way it comes into play is if you, as a defendant, are on the other side of a lawsuit and want to show that you created this thing before the other person did what they did. So that is the real benefit, the real protection. The certificates are nice. They're beautiful. They come, and it could be worth the $55 you pay. But for me, like even my own catalog, I've written upwards of 400 tunes, like not yet released any of them.
Right.
I'm on the stockpile end right now.
Wow.
And I'm taking my time with the registration piece and doing them in bunches and in groups. Because again, you could do it song by song as soon as you have something you're proud of, like register a copyright for it. But what I think makes more dollars and cents is to wait until you have a kind of healthy bucket of stuff. If you can call it a compilation, call it a group of unpublished works, then you're able to do each title, each track, submit each MP3 or WAV file, whatever you want to do, lyric sheets, split sheets if you want to, and make sure those things are yours on paper.
Right.
But back to the fun fact, you own your copyrights.
Okay, so it's not the actual get it copywritten, get it registered.
Get it registered.
That's good to know, because I definitely didn't,
It's a nuance, but I think
Yeah.
it's important for people to understand, like,
Right.
you don't necessarily have to even do the poor man's copyright thing where you're mailing
it
CD
back
or
to
something.
yourself. I heard about that.
I mean, and that's cool, and it's like I think it's great too. Like with a lot of these, DAWs, they have timestamps that, like,
Right.
if you want to really get into it, and then something is like, well, I created on this date, and it's timestamped here. They show like
session file. And
the session file always, will
So
say
they look into that.
you can.
If you are ever involved in a copyright infringement lawsuit, they dig up your birth certificate.
Yeah.
else,
That's
man.
crazy.
Because it gets real, and I think the thing too, when you were talking about split sheets, we talked a little bit about it before we started. But I was talking to a buddy of mine last night about an arrangement that he helped do, like on a very well-known gospel song. And I was like, y'all didn't do split sheets, y'all didn't get any credit for it. It's like, I got credit as playing on it, But I told him, like, back in the day, to be a session musician was a session musician. In the places like New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Nashville, LA, people brought in sheet music. They read the music. They read what was there. They didn't add their extra little fluff to it.
Right.
Because that's what it was. You were a session musician, and you got paid scale or double scale, depending on what it is. And the scale is a rate. What they pretty much how they, paid musicians. Either it's $100 an hour, $150 an hour, or whatever. And but they've gotten away from that to where it's gotten
More creative.
The understanding of it is a little diluted, which is why you run into a lot of issues now with people saying, well, that's my note on that, or that's my lick and that's my line, like, because people, like, they start seeing this. Well, like what you said before, is very common in the gospel world, where, the artist gets all the credit, or the producer, even though it may have been a team effort. And then same thing with Lauryn Hill a few years back, on the Miseducation album. She, even though she wrote a lot of the stuff, but like it was a lot of music creators on there that deserved a lot of the credit and residuals from it. So I guess I'm saying all this to say, musicians shy away from like the paperwork or the contracts, the work for hire stuff, but it just protects everybody.
It's best, man.
Yeah, you have to.
That's
how friendships break up. That's how people get mad and like, he stole my song, and a lot of it's just a lack of knowledge and a misunderstanding.
So my thing, like, and it could be the lawyer training, but I really think it's just a people point, is that almost every misunderstanding can be avoided if people have the conversation up front. Don't shy away from topics that are uncomfortable. So,
and you're
like,
not wrong for asking for
you're not.
paperwork, bro.
Not.
Like,
and even to the paperwork point, there are so many hands-free digital resources now. With all of the label clients I work with, even artist clients I work with now, there's a free website resource called songsplits.com. You can literally just collab, do whatever you do. At the end of the session, it takes about 3 minutes to put your information
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, that's what is that again? Because I'm new to that.
I'm gonna look that up.
So
I had to put all that under the
Song
video.
Split, you said?
Songsplits.com, yeah.
Okay.
And the great feature for me is, like, my label clients and whoever, you can add administrators to the account. So I'm added as a lawyer to see what these splits are and how to administer the rights and everything on the back end.
So being that you are a lawyer, what is the proper split for someone in a song? I know what my understanding is, but everybody feels like, if I gave, this type of input, if I did the vamp, or if I did the chorus and I did that, it's like, to me, I would think if a person did each part, then it's split a third each.
Yeah, that's a great question. One I'm asked a lot. And the only great lawyerly answer is it depends. I can tell you the best analogy I've heard and used for it is you want to consider every song, every creation. And this is especially relevant for me with a newborn at home, but pretty much like a baby. Consider from, the moment you conceptualize, from 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 the conception, day one, when the idea pops up, all the way through the creative process, the pains, whatever, to bring that thing to full term. Who did the heavy lifting? Who carried most of the weight? Who has the back pain? Who has the foot pain? And then once you're in the delivery room, consider how complicated of a birth is it? Is it a breech birth? You have to have specialists come in and do some weird stuff. Is it a simple process where it's really just pushing easy does it, and then it's out? All of those things weigh differently. They're different child to child. They're different song to song, creation to creation.
Would you say the delivery room would be the release of the song or the album?
I was gonna ask.
I would say that changes. It depends.
So which one is the
But-
portion where you're in the studio? Because like a lot of people like to bring entourages into the studio,
Right.
And then oh, yo, do this or do that, and then all right, now I got my credit.
I was gonna say, like, with writing camps, however loosely or tightly formed they are, you want to consider each contribution, again, like it's a child, consider it like a feature on a person. Is it their eyebrows, which if they're missing, you look weird and crazy? Is it a mustache, where it's
That's true.
just something you could live without? And like each form is different. So like the delivery room for one hit song could be that first session where you got it all out. You bled on the vinyl, and it is what it is.
Some people like no eyebrows, man.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Sometimes the thing,
Hey,
man.
that's what the record be sounding like too.
Some men like
Weird
it,
to me.
woman with no hair, or
Yeah, but so that first session could be the delivery room for somebody. It could be the mastering session for somebody else. Could be the release date for somebody else. If you're like, I don't know, it all depends. But you want to look at that child, see who it looks like. The analogy gets weird because it's a sound, but it will have some defining characteristics to it.
But that's the thing too. Like I just remember back in the day, like there were points that were used. The point system was used a lot more with session musicians that mixed and mastered. Like they got points for mixing it because it did help create the sound of the song and the album.
Right.
And like nowadays, it's almost like they're just paid for work for hire, and whoever owns the masters, which is typically the label or the producer or the artist, they end up keeping the majority share of the money.
Right.
Which is, to me, I just feel like it started off good, and then like now through the years, everything is morphed into being something else. So
no, that's very real, because that's like sending files. You record at your own studio and you send files. If I sent my drum files and they mix and you didn't do anything to them and put them on a record, like I need mixing credit for that portion too. You know what I mean? I mean, does that
Right.
So I get 100% what you mean. Like now it's on the mix and master person. Whoever did it, engineer. But that's very real. That's very real. Credit should be.
musicians, we moody, so a lot of times we don't really want to talk about it because we don't want no bad vibes.
Bro,
everything is vibe based
because we creatives, you know what I mean? Like
we creatives, man. I don't want no vibes, man.
So I treat that point.
That's too real, bro.
Yeah.
This might be going a little too far left, but
Nah, go ahead.
I treat that
what's up?
point just like having the uncomfortable conversation. You vibing with a girl, y'all get back to the place. You need to ask the question: are you clean?
Hey, that's
Are we good?
Are we
You
good?
need to ask the
good.
question: is there consent? Whatever.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
that out of the way. Have the weirdness done, and then y'all can vibe from there on out.
Yeah.
But then you know what you're getting into. You know what you're not getting into.
I will say, man,
Yeah.
that makes the sessions go by quicker too. You actually get the job done when you discuss business first or second before you do the actual product, because you could tell out the gate if they plan, if they serious. And if it's a favor, bro, say that. But if you going to get rights and stuff like that, that's a different fight.
Yeah, a lot of people. I used to, when I used to work with Prince,
Right.
the thing of what that is that he had to just get all that out the way. He would just pay us money, be like, all right, you're not gonna get this, you're not gonna get that. Keep it cut and dry. I'm gonna pay you X amount of dollars, and you're gonna be fine. We would look at the check and be like, okay.
That's what's up.
I mean, but it's like also too, like somebody may get $100,000 for a song that they get bought from, Drake may buy it or Chris Brown or something like that, but then that song make, 4 million. So does it weigh out? Sometimes you want to take that gamble and say, well, no, just give me this and give me that. And if you got the patience of, I don't know, patience of a cow, you wait it out. You said, no, I'm gonna look for my money in the long end. That's why it's like you got to play chess with your career and your life as a musician and not think so much about what I got to get right now just to pay a bill.
Right.
Long-term thinking, man. I've been saying this thing for a while.
Yeah.
Like these last couple months, long wins, like put your money in the long wins. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's real, man. Let's jump to pandemic.
Okay.
Musician, pandemic life now that we've gone a couple months into it. How is it going for y'all?
I mean, it's going. What they say in baseball, going, gone. And I know for me, like I was working with a Brian Cobra saying I had this tour we were gonna do, and I just worked on this album. I just finished it. 2 months before the release, the pandemic hits, and it's like all this work and investment I'm putting into this album. We were gonna do like a 60, 70 city tour, and now like I have nowhere to really shop and tour this album. So I shut down for like a month because I was tired anyway. So I just like, I'm not going to touch my horn. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to work on music. And it was great. But then I kind of had to jump back on the bus and really figure something out. So I started recording and doing virtual concerts and stuff with my band. And, that's been like pretty cool, and trying out doing donations on the actual video versus trying to charge a ticket price for somebody to look online.
Right.
And you kind of win more because for one of the videos, we got about 50,000 viewers.
Wow.
And that's not say what I got, but like just say every viewer gave $1.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's $55,000. Now I wish I had gotten that.
Yeah.
Because everybody that watches doesn't give that.
Right.
But it ends up weighing out to the point where it covers all the expenses on what you're trying to do. So it's a new way of trying to do it. I'll actually like it that way because people just kind of give and donate, and you have more viewership, that way. Right. So, I mean, outside of that, the music side has not really been a whole lot. I haven't even really wanted to work on music. I just kind of been at the coffee shop more and spending more time, home with the family and, with my lady. Well, she was my lady, but we didn't make it. We didn't make it out of COVID. So.
Didn't make it through the pandemic.
We didn't make it through the pandemic, man. We didn't make it, but that's just kind of what I've been doing, man. So just trying to stay sane and happy.
That's it, man. That is it, man. You?
Yeah. So I mentioned the newborn a little bit ago. So she's 6 weeks in. Melody.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Bro.
Yeah, Melody got a girl. Welcome to the
Yeah, he got a girl.
I got 2 girls.
Oh man.
Yeah, bro. It's real.
Lord, I don't know what I want, but I'll leave that to you. Go ahead.
So actually, this may be me venting also, but
hey, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I've done.
You can do it.
I've done probably more music work through the pandemic, and it's really kind of based on the sacred space I'm in. So
right.
I'm doing mainly guitar with Word of God Fellowship in Raleigh.
Okay.
I do random one-off and recurring sessions with churches from all over. So this past Sunday, 6 to 7 a.m., I recorded chopped guitar parts for Mount Sinai in Brooklyn. Went to Word of God. Did a session with General and Anti-Gravity, guitarist with them. And then keys for a random church in New Hampshire.
That's what's up.
So like all of those things are opportunities that like I can't be 4 places at once, but now I can. So there's leveraging that. One difficulty I've run into recently doing some shows with Nito at Little City Brewery. They have a residency there Sundays. So a specifically COVID struggle is that with the newborn at home,
going out
demands there and the exposure supposed or whatever to that. So I have to kind of shut those down for the time being. Queen Mother has insisted. So we're redirecting those efforts and those energies back home. But yeah, as a musician, as a man, it's been definitely a growing period.
That's real. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. For both of y'all, man. Like you said, man, you keeping the coffee shop up running, and jumping in other lanes and seeing what you can do to make it work and sustain it. And same for you, newborn. Man, people like, yeah, when we have a baby, no, when we. I'm like, yo, it's a pandemic. I don't know. I'm big on faith. I have no worries about having a child right now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, and I know that'll make me go even harder, but yeah, man, it's on top of playing for a couple churches and just trying to see, all right, what's another lane out here that I can capitalize on,
right,
and actually be great in. So
and that's not to understate the day job. So like,
that too. Working, I work a day job, so definitely
most
been
of my
blessed.
time, but
yeah, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Anything you guys are looking to see from the musician community coming up, or that you would like to see better?
I don't know, but I have things, but like I get wordy, so I'll let you go first.
So I'll just put punctuation on the kind of the whole first half of this discussion, and say I want us as a creative community to have the tough conversations, decide on splits, do all that, like as brothers, as whatever, up front, honestly, and get it out the way so that all that creative juice can kind of flow and be shared, and we don't worry when it's a hit, when push comes to shove, what do we do?
Yeah.
We've already had that conversation. So that's me saying that as a musician, as a writer, as a lawyer, especially wanting that sort of clarity within our creative communities. I think that would be love.
Dope. Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Take advantage. Become a more mature musician. It's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dope, bro. Like people that you see where they started and where they at now.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to start being a musician. It's another thing to go from just live YouTube and to a session musician to, branding and the whole nine, bro. Like, and to actually, graduate in that field, bro. Like just to graduate, and like you said, you're a lawyer and you have a coffee shop and many other things going on.
Yeah,
I think it's dope, bro, because not everybody's doing that. Some people haven't been inspired. Some people, my big bro Ronald Huff said, one time he was like, "Yo, if you didn't use this time during the pandemic to be productive, you lost out."
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Now we all needed our rest. Look, I was appreciative the first couple months. I was like, "Look, bro, I'm chilling."
Yeah.
I still had to go to work, first responder, and then we're musicians, so we still had to work.
Yeah.
But I took my breaks in between, and then I got my balance on.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. I will say what I'm looking forward to is like me hearing and being exposed to like more music. Like Nito, the group that I hear, like Dottie is another like great artist. I love to hear, she's a beast. So I love hearing these different entities create music because it's just so inspiring. Because I'm so busy working a lot of times that sometimes I don't even want to play music. I just want to go sit and listen because it does something for me. Mm-hmm. But I'm not even like concerned about where the music is going because I believe the younger musicians that are coming in, they just have a understanding of music and taking it to another place that I couldn't even imagine right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm just a student when it comes to this again. But one thing I do want some of these younger musicians is to deal with themselves and the ego or the arrogance they may carry, that the gifting doesn't define who you are. Take the guitar away, take the sax away, take the drums away. What's your character like?
Yeah.
Would I go and hang out with you? Would I go play ball with you? Would we go, to hang out, guys trip at the beach? Like, can we hang?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you're getting hired and picked up from these people on gigs based on your hang. Like the musicianship is second.
Yeah.
90% of the jobs that I've gotten as like a musician, even as an artist, people are like, I just love your energy. I love that. I love the positivity. And it doesn't mean you're always positive, but it's always understanding like your situations and understanding it. Just because you're mad, you don't take it out on the next person. There's a lot of musicians.
Energy is real. Vibes is real.
Get therapy, musicians. Get therapy. I'm telling you,
sir.
It helps.
Perspective is everything, bro.
Perspective and reality.
Yeah.
A lot of them have a perspective that thinks it's reality, but it's not. And Just a lot. I love the younger musicians, but a lot of them, they have a misunderstanding on like how to handle situations. Because I remember growing up when I was told, like, even when I sounded good, it's like, all right, that was all right. You know what I mean? So it made me kind of work harder, but we didn't have YouTube back then. We had, I would look on MySpace, but now all these musicians have access to all this music, so they can learn stuff like that. They break
everything down, slow the video down, and everything.
And it's crazy to see what they can do. And I'm like Justin Schultz, Jaden Baker, seeing them jokers play. But it's just like, at the end of the day, all these musicians need to deal with themselves and the emotions that they're not saying, but they're speaking through the instruments. They need to learn how to use their words. The creativity works, but it's only an aspect of that when you take that guitar or that saxophone out of your hand, it's like, who are you?
Legit.
Yeah.
That's
you got to handle it. I don't care how good you are. Like, I'm gonna pull you aside and be honest with you. And I think that's the reputation I have. It's like, man, Marcus will be a jerk. And I'm not being a jerk. I'm just being real. And I'm telling you, like, you're good, but you ain't that good, because your attitude reflects your musicianship. Right. You'll look at somebody a whole lot better if their attitude is better. But if they got a nasty attitude, I'm like, they killing, but man, that dude's a jerk, man. I can't hang around.
Yo, it's I've told a couple of my homies and my wife, I was like, I'm not starstruck.
Yeah.
I'm not nobody, but at the same time, it's like, I work hard for mine or whatever. But if certain famous musicians walk around and they, Hollywood pretty much, it's like, yo, that's cool. You speak, you don't. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna judge you based on your character. I don't care what gear you got on. I don't care how many times your name is on your session.
Yeah.
It was one time Varro and Thaddeus came and they played for the Fred Hammond concert at Central.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you, it was like everybody was out there, all the homies or whatever, and we was hitting for different people, and the drum set was trash. Backline was, Sabian B8s. Like, and so Varro walked up, yada yada, him and his brother, and everything was cool, and he ain't had no drum set. They usually sound check with everybody else sound check for the most part. And it was just like, wow. So let me see, because Varro can play, bro. Like, he can play. He's well known. He's a good dude. He seemed like he cool. Let's check his character. Let's see what he does with the equipment, that he sees. He was like, yo, I got my snare, my snare and pedal. I'm good. And he said he gonna stay right there. And when I tell you, you couldn't tell the difference in the show. My respect for the dude went all the way up, because I was just like, yo, that's what I'm talking about, bro. Like,
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Like, he didn't have to B8s, bro. Like, we talk junk and we wasn't nowhere. We was in college, bro. We wasn't nowhere, but it's how you carry yourself with or without your instrument.
Yeah, it matters, man. Because like, you can't go in the room and talk to people and hang. And like, to me, that's a problem. Not, you don't have to be the most vocal guy in the room. You just got to be able to just carry yourself well and have a conversation and be a decent person.
Right.
People just forgot about just pure human decency.
That part.
Where did that go? That's why the country is where it is now, because nobody has pure human decency anymore. All of that's been thrown out the window, considering the other person before we consider ourselves, self-control, extending grace, being patient with one another. All these things help into making you a better musician. Like, your character reflects in your music.
We must continue to extend grace. I feel like this pandemic, man, you should have learned a lot about yourself and the do's and don'ts the things you like about yourself, the things you don't like about yourself. And for me personally, bro, I just make sure I've been extending a lot of grace and having more patience for people, situations, churches, decision making, bro. Just it all matters, but it's a give and take. That's what I'm saying, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, man, pandemic has been cool. Anything else y'all wanted to bring up, chop it up about?
There's so much. The pandemic I think now it's just like trying to figure out what's next, and stay ahead of the curve and being more. And I think people are becoming more creative now, but just staying ahead of just being just a regular musician. It's like, yo, trying to make a quick buck. Because now, like, that old way of how we used to do things, every so often, like, there's a shift and there's a change, and we all have to adapt. Even restaurants. I remember when the pandemic hit, all the restaurants like, what are we gonna do? Quickly, they got some chalk and wrote numbers on the parking spaces and said, "Come pick up your food," because they needed to make money. They adapted. So musicians, I think, have to kind of do the same thing. Maybe you don't have to go and open a coffee shop or become an entertainment attorney, but you go and figure out something to where, like, music isn't the only thing that you make money from. You need to have a couple of different baskets.
Streams, multiple streams.
Yeah, got to have multiple streams.
Indeed,
I agree.
Yeah, So we talked a little bit about copyright law earlier. Another kind of spin-off question to that was trademark, and I did want to touch the differences between the two. And how us as musicians can kind of leverage both. So trademarks, like, again, big picture, 10,000 foot view, they protect the source of material from being misidentified with anybody else, basically. So what you do with a trademark is you say such and such person or such and such business creates this thing. It's categories of goods and services. You have to choose one, register each kind of for every lane you operate in. And then you register that name you're using, that logo, that slogan. Could be a sound, could be a color, could be anything brand identifying. And then you with that trademark, you have a fence kind of around whatever you register. That's your domain, that's your fiefdom. Somebody steps on your grass, you can take them to court, cease and desist letter, whatever you want to do to get them off your turf. And that's trademark law, top to bottom. So whether it's lines of hats you're producing, you want to protect
merch, all of that,
right. And especially in the music lane, like literally for musical recordings, there is a whole category dedicated to that. So if you are an artist with a name that you don't want bit by somebody else, register a trademark for it. I don't want to make it sound like overly quick, cheap, or easy, because it can be a battle. Me and you talked a little bit about yours, but so the application itself is one hurdle. If you do it online and you're kind of within some qualifications for micro entity status or whatever, you can do it for $225 a pop. From there, you may have some other hurdles as you go. So the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, they will look at the application. They have the title of the person is literally examining attorney. So they have a barred licensed person looking at what you submit against trademark law, against precedent, against what exists already, what's registered already, what's unregistered already and out there. And they vet your submission against all of that. And then they will do what's called an office action to respond to your application. Could either be an approval, could be something you need to tweak, need to fix, need to disclaim a certain word or phrase or whatever, in order to get what you are protecting past all those filters. And then what's yours is yours from there on out. There's some renewals, some other costs as you go to kind of keep it live. But yeah, that's trademark law, broadly speaking. I do think for musicians, it is a tool you can leverage, again, like you mentioned, merch. And really the business of what we do. If we're rendering services as a musician and you want your own brand, you want your own name, we're going to kind of get into the entity thing, the forming a business also separately. But yeah, that can be useful. So copyright and trademark are different in that way. You don't trademark a song. You register a copyright for it. And that song, again, just so this point is kind of drilled home, is two separate things within itself.
Question.
I
guess what copywriting and trademarking, I've never looked into it, but can you trademark or copyright a song or a symbol in perpetuity, like, or that's a term like forever for people that.
So about owning a trademark in perpetuity or forever, you can have a registered trademark live, meaning it's still protecting what you want it to protect, as long as you renew it on time. So there is a renewal fee as you go. As soon as you stop paying that, it's usually, I think it's at the 6-year mark, at the 14-year mark, and at the 20-year mark, and then every 6 years after that.
Okay.
As soon as you stop paying, once that renewal time comes, it will be dead.
And then do you have to start the process over again, or do you?
Yeah,
Completely.
And it's pretty much up for grabs, ain't it?
Yeah.
Because
Is there a way to get around? I'm sorry, Eric.
No, good.
Is there a way to get around it? Like you have to keep renewing. Is that the system? Is that how they build it?
That's
the interest,
right. So they want their bread at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Government. The way around it, I would say there is none. You just have to keep paying as long as you want that protection. You can have, so besides the federal registered trademark, there are state level trademark systems. North Carolina has one. So you can kind of have a local claim to the name or whatever you're using.
Wow.
And those don't have as much requirements like as a going concern. An even more cheapo route is, and this kind of ties into the next point about forming businesses, but you can use what's called a trade name or an assumed name, DBA, doing business as. And those registrations are usually one time, and they're about $25 a pop, at least here in North Carolina. They vary state by state and locale to locale. But you can register a DBA even without a business entity.
Wow.
For every county in North Carolina, for a one-time fee of $25. It doesn't give you the same weight as a registered trademark, but it is something you can hold up and say, this is mine. This is when I registered it, how I registered it, and you're on my turf.
Yeah, I'm saying like I guess you're on the path of creating something. You do a DBA to create an account until everything gets legalized, which can take I don't know how many weeks is it, but you do a DBA. I did it when I created my and coffee stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was just DBA until I got legal, which is it being an LLC.
So when you say in the county though, does that mean like nobody can do nobody can do a similar situation or idea as he's doing in that particular county that he's registered in? Is that what that says?
Well, it would be for the name specifically.
Okay.
The DBA.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know you mentioned you have to register in every county, and I know it's a lot of open mic spots out here. I know it's a lot of yo, I got a podcast in Durham too. Me too.
Yeah. So the thing, and I want to be a little clear about this. So, each DBA registration is county by county, but when you apply in North Carolina, at least, there's a box for all.
Okay.
So you can across the board clear it all.
Okay.
You want to do so before any trademark registration, or DBA registration or business name claim, whatever you're doing. You want to also do a search yourself to see if somebody else is out there.
Yeah, that's what I did.
How they're using it, what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's a conversation we had a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure you're not stepping on toes just as much as you don't want that to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that infringement thing, that turf thing, it goes both ways.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, as far as a business entity, I know you mentioned it, and how do we start that? Do you encourage it? How's that?
Yeah. So this is kind of my last fun fact for the day.
Look, it's facts that we need it. But go ahead.
So business entities broadly, there are a lot of forms they can take. Some provide you more or less protection.
Mm-hmm.
But what a lot of people do by default is they kind of just do what they do, make the money, and by default, you're a sole proprietor at that point. So you own a sole proprietorship. You can either do that with your social security number under your name, or the IRS, Internal Revenue Service here. They have the option for you to register an EIN or a TTN, so employer identification number, to have a separate tax account for your business, even as an individual if you don't register anything else. So you can do that. You can have a separate business banking account, kind of the same way. But the thing about forming an actual entity, whether it's a partnership, a limited liability company, LLC, a corporation, which is a little bit beyond.
Bro, no, it's tough.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. He's talking good.
Calling them, yeah.
Trying, man.
Yeah.
So those are, broadly speaking, like the types you can use. Corporations, I deal with more so on like the tech ventures, the folk that are kind of looking to be invested in or give stock options or anything like that. And then there's a separate conversation whether to form here in North Carolina or in Delaware if you're really looking for big name VC and PE firms to come at you.
That's good. Wow.
So that we could chop about that another day. But for ground level, for the musician doing what they do day to day, an LLC, it affords you asset protection, so liability protection. You want a kind of different person that somebody comes after. If you have a gig, a contract, it falls through, somebody wants to sue you,
they can't take your house.
Right. Yep. If you do this, so you have to have a different there. Yeah. So they come after the business that they signed the contract with, and you still risk like losing money, but only what you put in, only what you invest. So we call it capital contributions. Could be whatever you're willing to pour into that, is up for grabs. It is at risk whenever you do what you do. If somebody slips and falls in your space or whatever, that's all stuff we deal with. But the more positive point to having a business like that is we as gig economy workers, musicians, the government considers us self-employed. Right. If you're an independent contractor, 1099, doing whatever you do. So when taxman comes, you usually get hit pretty heavy. For
straight across the head. Bro.
Oh yeah, they gonna take close to half.
Yeah,
right. whatever would have been withheld and some if you worked for somebody else. So the way around that, I'm not calling it tax evasion, but tax avoidance.
Tax encouragement. Nah, good.
All sorts of euphemisms for it, but the way to mitigate your tax burden as a working person working for yourself by yourself is to form an LLC, and then instead of having an actual corporation, what you can do is have that LLC keep its structure and do what's called a subchapter S tax election. So it's a form you file with the government. It holds out your business instead of being, usually LLCs are taxed as what's called a pass-through. So the business itself pays no taxes. You as the owner pay taxes on whatever you make, dividends you get, whatever income you receive. With an S corp, so instead of that partnership level tax, you get corporate level tax. So what you do there, you pay yourself a reasonable salary, quote unquote, different for every person, every industry, every locale, every space. So I can't say what that number is for you, but you do that in good faith. And then whatever else money comes in, whatever else bread you get and give yourself is not subject to income tax anymore. It would be either capital gains or not reaching the capital gains threshold. So pretty much untaxed. So with an LLC taxed as an S corp, a musician can pretty much save money come tax time. And
so to make it plain, I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. You get an LLC, you get an S corp, which means you're getting taxed as a corporation.
Right.
You pay yourself a certain amount. Now you got to be making the money to be able to pay yourself, correct?
Right.
Cool. Say you make $10,000 that year and you pay yourself $5,000. The other $5,000 is not taxable, not income tax.
Not income tax.
That's what you're saying. Got you. I follow. Right. Okay.
And you have to also consider your spouses, whoever you're kind of taxed with, because that will determine your tax bracket, income tax, all of that. Yep. But yeah, and it helps. I mean, gigging also, you want kind of a party to be in a contract with when you're dealing with venues, when you're dealing with labels or whoever you're coming across. Having a business entity, it adds some level of like legitimacy. But more importantly than the optics of that is the tax savings, asset liability protection of you individually, your family, your home, whatever you own. And that's pretty much it. That's why it makes sense for most of us to do that. each situation is different. Again, the lawyer answer, it depends.
Right.
So talk to your tax man.
Right.
I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer yet.
Right.
Until you pay me. So, so I want to be clear. Like, it's a general rule of thumb that it definitely could be a good look for you.
It doesn't hurt either, to just be, legit.
Right.
You can get paid under the table with all day, but to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, my coffee shop and myself included, we got government assistance that, is forgivable.
Right.
In a way that you do it if you're paying your employees and other business expenses that falls under the umbrella of this, SBA forgivable loan. Being legit as an LLC, you get somebody to do it, you get money back from the government that basically you don't have to pay back. So that kind of helps. But if you're like a musician that's out here and you've just been getting paid under the table and you have no way to prove income or show any taxes or anything from payroll, it just makes it difficult for you to be to get around some of the loopholes that some of these corporations do. You don't have to know everything. You just kind of just start off.
That shit, like you said, bro. YouTube, ask questions, man. Like lack of knowledge, man. Like you will perish, bro. Like it's nothing wrong. Exactly, nothing wrong with going legit. Just ask questions and jump out there. I just jumped out there and I started my LLC. I won't put my business out there, but I'm still learning about it. But at the end of the day, I jumped out there on faith, and it's like, all right, God is like put me in a position where, yo, you want to be legit even more. You want to learn about it. I know you feel like you don't feel like learning about it. Learning is not always easy, you know what I mean? Especially it's like you don't want to play with taxes. Like I don't play with the man. You feel me? Like
don't get Wesley.
Yeah, I don't play with the folk, so
not trying to be the Wesley Snipes of North Carolina.
None of that, bro. Had me get clowned. But go legit, man. Like legit. There's nothing wrong with that. Go legit. And then even going legit, man, you may find some other lanes musically that you can capitalize on. Legit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just musicians. Hate to say it. I'm just gonna say it. Stop being lazy. We just got to stop being lazy and just take. Even if we took 30 minutes a day to either read up or to do some type of thing that makes us like legit, or if we just take
that's good.
$20 or $50 a week to put towards a savings account to be able to pay for this stuff. It's small gains, for big wins.
For legal advice. Pay for legal advice.
You can't afford not to have it. You can't afford not to have insurance, health insurance, or life insurance. Sure. All these things are small little things that you would spend at a bar. The
cookout trays, the bar, the drinks.
Yeah.
I mean, wings, the whole nine. That's real. That's very real. That's good.
Invest in yourself, man.
You have to. You're your best investment
outside of money.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself. A lot of people have this thing where they be like, I pay myself, then I pay my tithes, and then whatever. And that's cool. Whatever your thing is, but invest in yourself beyond just saving money. Right. Anything? What do you guys have coming up?
I just have like a couple of more virtual concerts.
Okay.
Coming up. I was working on a musicians boot camp before all this happened. I was going to do at the top of the year, but I don't know how I'm gonna make it happen. And a lot of it was going to be based around educating musicians, getting people set up, as being like either a DBA or an LLC, and they have work for hire contracts, just to kind of make things more black and white when it comes to like knowing what to do inside sessions, outside of sessions and stuff. Because a lot of people just don't know, getting people signed up for the Grammys, getting stuff like it's a lot of things that musicians can do that puts them in a competing range with somebody else, and then just walks them in the doors. But I'll be working on that. Wow. Hopefully I can pull it off spring 2021. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm gonna have Pete involved in that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'll take it, man.
yeah.
So to answer that question, I have a few speaking engagements, mostly remotely virtual.
Okay.
Coming up in November, helping with a few different avenues. So one is a Black Wealth, Family and Wealth conference later in the month. Teaching on how families as themselves can form businesses or banks as investment vehicles, get returns on that, get dividends on that. And earlier in the month, I just got tapped by a student group from Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're doing some Black Wall Street programming.
Oh, nice.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
just about business ownership. Some of the history there, but mostly looking forward to how to do what they did in the 21st century now, and do it to last instead of getting ripped. So yeah, lots of speaking, working with my firm, so I should plug them on the legal end.
Definitely.
So it's Fourscore Business Law.
Okay.
Fourscore. And that's based in downtown Raleigh. Okay. I do most of my work from home with the newborn, but we're out here. Every consultation, first conversation you have with us is free. From then on, we kind of figure things out. Right. Go as we go.
Lawyer talk, bro.
Yeah.
No, but
and it's not shade. That's legit.
That
but it's business,
end.
Bro.
Yeah.
Catch on to that hint immediately.
To that end, though.
Level up.
Exactly, bro.
It is lawyer talk a little bit, but what we do different from most other shops, other firms, other lawyers, just like I said, us musicians should do. We have that pricing conversation up front. Let you tell us your budget. Let us figure out if we can help you, how we can help you. Payment plans, whatever we kind of have to do to work with you. We do. We have a specific drive. This is kind of my thing, but everybody at my firm is on board to be a Black founder resource. So we actually put together. It's about a 3-page PDF with about 100 links to different resources Black founders can tap. That's everything from the thought stage to the financing stage, raising money, down through growth. And I'm gonna send that to you with the coffee shop for sure.
No, yeah, definitely. I was gonna ask too. Can you only practice in North Carolina, or is it US?
So I'm licensed first in New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina now.
Okay.
But the thing about business law that I do is I can pretty much represent anybody anywhere.
Okay.
Just as long as I'm not going into court appearing on anybody's behalf. I can only do that in those 3 states.
Okay, got you.
But yeah, I have clients kind of all over, a lot kind of in my hometown is Philadelphia. So a lot of startups there I work with. A few on the West Coast. My firm has a presence out there. But yeah, I'm open to whosoever, wheresoever.
Work.
Yeah, I know musician friends, that's always asking, hey, do you know an entertainment attorney? And I don't know any Black ones. You're like the only one I know. So it's good.
Crazy.
And most of us are bi-coastal, so it's that New York or LA thing. Nashville kind of has a scene now with some entertainment lawyers. But I'm here doing it. One of very few. And one of very few that look like us. Like
That's what. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing, and it's like to find somebody that is credible and legit is good.
That's it.
Yeah,
and that's why, bro. I was looking last season, like, we was talking about taxes, and I try to keep credible people on this episode, on these episodes. But man, Pete hit me up, and I was like, Pete is a lawyer, bro. Wait, you practicing music and I was like, oh, perfect, man. Let me get him. Let me get Marcus. And it worked out. It worked out, man. So I appreciate y'all, you guys stopping through again. Marcus again, Pete first time, man. Hopefully this is not the last time. Stay tuned for another episode from the Musicians Exchange Podcast, Season 3.
Yes, sir.
We out.